Please welcome Nanny Robina, who joins us to talk about disciplining your toddler. It's a topic that inspires, fear in a lot of parents waiting for that toddler meltdown to happen, and it's always at the wrong time in the wrong place. So
always.
We want to talk a little bit about disciplining your toddler. It's a tricky age for them because I think they're asserting their independence a little bit, but they're still babies.
They're still babies. They're still, you know what? I think a lot of people also, I have to point out, confuse punishment and discipline.
Yeah.
They think they're the same. They're not the same. Mm-hmm. And with a toddler, you would not be punishing a toddler. They do not know right from wrong at this age.
Right.
And I think parents tend to expect too much sometimes.
Yeah.
You take your child to the restaurant and you get all freaked out because you assume that your child knows how to behave in the restaurant and can sit there for 20 minutes. Well, I think you're expecting too much.
Right.
Yeah.
The biggest tip I ever heard on the show was that, we all expect our kids to sit there at the dinner table miraculously when we go to Easter dinner or Thanksgiving, and every night at your own table, they're not sitting there. So how would you expect them, all of a sudden you walk into a restaurant, how do you expect them to know how to do that?
Well, you know what,
Tracy?
Tracy?
You have to start at home.
Oh, let me tell you, it's rare that anybody actually sits at the table from beginning to end these days.
Yeah, you're
the phone rings, there's something boiling on the stove, something interrupts you, you get up to get the salt and pepper, whatever.
Right.
So few people actually sit at the table from beginning to end without any interruption. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of sad, and we should try and do that, but with a toddler, they do not have that kind of patience. So really what we're talking about is not disciplining your child, but giving them, the tools, teaching them what you want them to walk away with. So when we talk about discipline, mm-hmm. we want to talk about the action, not the child.
Okay.
Okay.
So make sure you make that distinction.
Absolutely. I'll give you an example. Let's say your child, in a fit of anger, gets something and throws it, which, mm-hmm. Through the toddler years would not be that unusual. Mm-hmm. They'll stomp their feet and whatever they've got in their hand, be it a cup of water or a teddy, it gets thrown across the floor.
Yeah. We
don't want him to feel bad. He's allowed to express his anger and his frustration. However, he needs a little bit of guidance. He knows that he can't go through life throwing everything in his hand. And I have seen children do it quite late in age, and I feel that, obviously it could have been handled differently.
Right.
So I think if I was to turn around and say, well, I'm sorry you feel so frustrated, and acknowledge how he feels first. So let's acknowledge how he feels rather than just get angry about, that's naughty, you're not supposed to do that. How dare you throw your teddy? He doesn't need to hear that. He wants to know that you understand his feelings. Mm-hmm. You understand his anger.
Okay, so what are you saying? Are you saying why are you doing that? Or are you saying what's going on right now?
Perfectly normal for you to ask him, okay, I'm sorry you're upset and I see you threw your teddy across it. What's happening? Try and talk to your child, okay? Now, if they're very little, they may not be able to have that conversation with you. Yes. Okay, so then you could direct it. I'm sorry you're so angry you had to throw your teddy. Let's go over together and pick Teddy up. Then encourage him to use his words.
Right.
You wanted to use his words rather than get frustrated. Let's go pick Teddy up. And then you're going to talk to him in a manner that you want your child to talk, right? Because this is where it can go terribly wrong. If you get frustrated and you raise your voice, then your child's actually going to do the same because they're mimicking you at this age.
Right.
So if you lose your cool, which is, easy to do through the toddler years, it's a frustrating time, but your child is going to do the same.
I think what's frustrating for a lot of parents is that scenario that you just mentioned, you might have to repeat it 52 times before they actually get it. So don't think that you can just do it once and then why aren't they cured? You spend a huge chunk of time and it's training.
It is.
It's behavioral training, right?
Absolutely. And I'll get emails saying, but he's not listening and I've told him 200 times. Well, that's normal. I hate to tell you parents, but that is normal. You will have to continually tell your toddler. It takes quite a while.
It takes a long time.
for them to actually absorb what is right and wrong.
Right.
And that brings us back to, it is actually a teaching step at this time. They are learning, we are teaching them what is right and wrong. They don't know what is right and wrong at this time.
And they really do learn through repetition.
Absolutely.
So when you say there's a difference between discipline and punishment, I just want, so when do you punish? And when you are punishing, what are you doing?
Okay, so every parent is different. What works in one family house may not work in another family house.
Right.
And once your child has come up to the age Every child's different. 4, 5 years old, it may be time to take it up a notch.
Yeah.
For some children maybe not. They may not be ready. And it really, I think it has to come from your gut.
Right, you know
when
your
they
child.
know. And then, you can take things away, time out, etc. There are 100 things that you can do.
Yeah.
You've got to get creative. You've got to get creative with
We should have had Sandy Richard for this segment too, since she has 7 kids. She's been through it a few times.